So the grid assembles for the second race of the weekend for the Hammerite Racing Thunder Championship. Again, it's one of the classic touring car racing club's portfolio of championships, and effectively this goes some way to recreating what Thunder Saloons was in the mid-1980s. They had a race yesterday, and it was Andy Robinson who was the winner, although, having led early on, he ran wide, lost out to Kevin Wendt, and had to fight his way back into contention with the Ford Falcon. And Darren Bly is the man with the onboard camera, Charlie.
It's all the first time that he's using... Sorry, I was just choking then. You threw to me. Sorry about that. So it's the first time he's actually using it as a rear-wheel drive Nissan Skyline. Normally it's been four-wheel drive. He's still up against four-wheel drive cars in the class, but rear-wheel drive, so loads of power and no grip.
So Darren Bly, a man to watch, very quick with that Nissan. And the grid is based on the results of yesterday's race. Andy Robinson then takes pole position with the Ford Falcon, which is not going to like these conditions, I don't think. Big, powerful cars on a wet road is not always conducive to the driver's peace of mind. It's great to watch. It's one of the PWR Paul Wheel Racing built Ford Falcons. And Andy Robinson, the man, the motor trader behind the wheel of it, with Kevin Wendt's omnipotent BMW M3, the 4.2-litre car, also on the grid. There is Daniel Clark at the very back with his VXR Vauxhall Astra. And Darren Bly's Nissan makes a great noise. This is the moment he thinks, do you know, I really wish I kept this as four-wheel drive, because had he got four-wheel drive in these conditions, it would have been a rocket ship.
Well, he's actually saying that it handles better as a rear-wheel drive car because he hasn't got the extra weight and all that sort of stuff. But in these conditions, yes, I think there is a little bit of him saying, I said, really? Are you really pleased that it's not four-wheel drive today? But he's loving it, absolutely enjoying it. And the sound of that car, let's have a listen to it.
Does that take a load of weight out of it by making it two-wheel drive from four?
Yeah, it would, definitely. And also just it will turn in a lot better, and he'll just have a little bit more control on the throttle rather than it being a four-wheel drive. But he's up, you know, the Subarus in this class are four-wheel drive. And at the back there, the back right-hand corner, we've got a Peugeot 205. That has got over 260 brake horsepower. The little Peugeot on the left-hand side with the white front lights to it. Brilliant. Great little car, there you go.
So Darren Bly saves weight but sacrifices grip. Incredibly windy day. Full marks to all of our cameramen, particularly those up on a high point with the cameras, braving the elements to bring you some great shots here at Silverstone. Right, there is Darren Bly's Nissan. It's a rolling start as well to the Hammerite Racing Thunder Championship. We are just set, ready to go. 15 minutes ready to get underway here at Silverstone. The Hammerite Racing Thunder Championship is go. From pole, Andy Robinson was a car's length ahead when they got to the line, but he storms down towards Copse. Kevin Wendt in the BMW is next up as they dive into the corner. Vaughan Fletcher, last year's champion, goes third on board with Darren Bly and the Nissan as he turns his way out of Copse. They've all got to be so careful. All of these cars have got bags of power and not much grip.
Yeah, you can see there he had so much power he had to lift off to say, right, well, you're three abreast, I can't get past you, I've just got to lift off. But you can see them tiptoeing round, you know, you've got the 4x4 Subarus and you've got the rear-wheel drive Skyline. That Peugeot has come from the back of the grid, 260 odd brake horsepower from a little front-wheel drive Peugeot. It's great.
And in these conditions, that front-wheel drive is going to help him because he's not going to be embarrassed with this excessive power. He's got the grip as the leaders come down then towards Brooklands for the first time, and I think it's going to be the Subaru, isn't it, of Vaughan Fletcher that leads, yes, thanks to its traction. So four-wheel drive goes into the lead. Vaughan Fletcher, who was third on the grid, leads the way, but Andy Robinson in the Ford Falcon, glorious sounding car, that comes through in second place. Darren Bly third. There is another of the Subarus, Ian Froggatt with his Impreza. So the race leader comes towards us and Darren Bly has a real old tank slapper there.
That'd have been great to have been on board with that then, wouldn't it? So yeah, loads of noise as they passed our commentary box, as they thunder past us on the pit straight. We've got a spinner.
Ian Froggatt, Subaru. So even with four-wheel drive you can get caught out. Everybody has missed him.
Ooh, that was lucky.
Absolutely right. We had some dramas there in qualifying yesterday.
Yeah.
So he sorts himself out, carries on behind Alex Sidwell's Holden Commodore.
I wouldn't want to check his heart rate right now, would you?
No, nor his laundry bill. Right, into Beckett's. 3 for the lead, and it's gone back the way of Ford. So you've got now Andy Robinson back up front. We need a Holden to get in on the mix here, don't we? Because there's always this tribal rivalry between Holden and Ford fans, and the Commodore is being humbled by the Falcon at the moment. There it is at the back of the pack, jousting with the Mini in the hands there of Neil Wade with its Saab turbo engine.
And that's a perfect example of the four-wheel drive Subaru, the white on the left-hand side, as we look at it powering out of the Maggots Brooklets complex with that four-wheel drive grip. Just pulls the car out of the corner while the others are tiptoeing around, waiting to get straight before they can put their foot on the throttle again.
Gavin Thompson's Peugeot into Brooklands, round the outside, tries to go the Astra of Daniel Clark, and he has done it, finds a bit more grip on the outside line there. Alex Sidwell's Holden Commodore tries to fight back as well as the cars now work their way over the line, but Andy Robinson has done the best lap of the race. He's got ahead of Vaughan Fletcher, and he is pulling away from Vaughan Fletcher. Darren Bly runs third, and Kevin Wendt, leader yesterday, runner-up in yesterday's race, he's down in fourth, and he's fading away a bit now. Yeah, he is fading away a little bit, which is unfortunate, as we're looking then at the 22 car going through Copse, which is Sidwell. Mr. Sidwell there going through there. Looks absolutely stunning, that car, but it's at the wrong end of the grid, as it were. He needs to get it further up the grid. Here we are on board now with Bly. Still wheel spinning in a straight line. This is brilliant. I'm going to let you listen to it for a minute. And then we brake. We go down a gear. Down another gear, looking for grip, try not to get locked up. His wipers either on intermittent, he's flicking them on when he needs them, or they've broken, or he's got Rain-X on the screen, so he's actually cleaning the screen. Through Luffield, being very gentle on the power. Patience, 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 then squeezing the power on, trying not to get the back end out. Oh, as he does there, we saw on the external view earlier, and he's going up on the power, and this is very, very slippery through this. The car wants to throw you onto the inside to the pit wall there, and I stayed silent there because literally we were all in the car with him as he was going through there. Very tender moment there as the Sierra there goes sideways as well. These cars are absolutely awesome fun, but really hard work to keep going in a straight line in these really greasy, windy conditions here at Silverstone. I have to say, from our point of view, this is absolutely perfect weather. The drivers are hating us to say this, but it does not make them work. And Alex Sidwell starting to come good now as the Commodore gets at the inside of Ian Froggatt, and off has gone Kevin Wendt, BMW, I'm afraid, at Copse. He was running fourth. He's had a big spin at Copse Corner, so he now tumbles to the back of the pack pretty much. And snakes his way back onto the track. Two oversteer moments there and wheel spinning away there. Oh, brilliant. Absolutely love it. Now, in our Arctic commentary box, at least we're dry. Outside, the weather is deteriorating. It's still very, very windy, and I think I'm right in saying that the rain is getting more heavy, and therefore lap times are going up. And you can see that every car now is becoming more of a handful. And fair play to Andy Robinson, who runs 00 as the number, which is what Craig Lowndes ran with his Ford Falcon when he started winning back in 2001, won at Sandown for his first Ford Falcon victory that year. But the conditions are getting worse and worse. Everybody is slowed, and everybody is working that bit harder to hang on in there. Yeah, hang on in there and stay on the track as well. So yeah, you've got the four-wheel drive vehicles still going wide on the exit of some of the corners there. We're looking at Vaughan Fletcher doing a fantastic job, you know, very high preparation on that vehicle, and he's doing a great job and catching the leader. Yeah, because the weather is getting worse. I was going to say that gap is coming down. The weather is playing into his hands. When it got a bit drier, he lost out. Now the weather is bad. Look, he's got a tighter line at Beckett's, and this is game on for the race lead. Andy Robinson is having to work overtime now to keep the four-wheel drive Impreza behind him. Grip on the right versus power on the left. Who's it going to be? So the power wins because there's a straight, but let's have a look now when we come into Brooklands and into Luffield, which is the twisty bit. When you start needing to turn the steering wheel, this is when the four-wheel drive is going to come into play on the exit or the middle of these corners. Let's have a look. Through the blustery conditions into the stadium they come. Andy Robinson then, the Auto Centre owner, hangs on to the race lead, but for how much longer? Remember, Vaughan Fletcher has led, and he's looking for the lead once more coming out of Luffield. Now, can he get the power down, and can he get the traction coming out of Luffield? Yes, he can. Has he got enough grunt in a straight line? Not quite. Over the timing line they come. Yellow flag waving at Copse Corner as well, so Vaughan Fletcher's next opportunity disappears. And the fact that he was on the outside of Woodcote with that concrete red and white wall on your inside, he's gone wide, he's understeered wide, which has given the Subaru then a good chance to cut back on the inside. Like that Subaru, even though it's quite a big car, it's a bit like a sort of a whippet dog, isn't it? It's sort of snipping around at his heels all the time, trying to get through, and he's done the move on the outside coming into Maggots, and now on the inside of Beckett's. And Daniel Clark was the reason for the yellow flag at Copse Corner. Vaughan Fletcher is the new race leader then. The reigning champion hits the front. Andy Robinson drops back into second place. Now, can he retaliate? He onto the Wellington straight comes now. This is where the power should work, but is he too far back? Has he lost out through Beckett's by enough to mean that Vaughan Fletcher is safe? I think the answer to that is yes, and we've still got 8 minutes of the race to go. but it is getting more and more treacherous out there, isn't it?
Can you see that line of oil as well? There's a bit of oil around the circuit there, so we've got a replay here of the BMW, which was spinning off again. Second spin now. We saw it spin on the inside of Copse. This is now on the exit of Brooklands. So really struggling there is Kev in the number 2 car, but looks stunning. What a lovely car. Great car.
Does look stunning. We've now seen it from every angle as well, thanks to all of the spins. It's a real handful. And if the road is getting oily, you can understand why he is losing grip all the time. And now that the weather is, I think, probably at its worst, it's not been this heavy the rain all day, everybody is finding it a real handful.
See, his racing, sorry David, his racing line's going, he's gone in tight on the inside. We're now on board then with the Skyline, remember rear wheel drive, so we turn in, kiss the curb on the inside. Very smooth on the power on the exit. So it takes them a good 100 metres or so to get on the power fully on the exit of the corner.
Now going up towards Maggots, you're on board with Darren Bly. Let's just ride with him and see how difficult life is at Silverstone with only rear-wheel drive.
So keeping it tight on the inside of the exit there. His wiper either doesn't work or he's just relying on his Rain-X on the inside there. But let's just have a listen down the straight. So it really does sound like a real nasty like roar in that car. It sounds awesome. So braking down a gear. I think there's a little bit of oil on this corner from our external shot. We'll have a look at it a bit later, but there's a line of oil just off the racing line. So we look at him fighting on the steering wheel. You know, even though it's a cool day, yeah, it's nice and cool in the car because of the conditions, you can't see anything, and also you're in like 30, 40, 50 grand's worth of vehicle and you're trying to keep it on the track. So those of you sat at home watching it in the nice comfort of your own home, it's absolutely phenomenal. He is fighting it. He's going to probably have to fight it again on the back end there you go. It snaps just when you don't want it to, and it snaps again, and he's going in a straight line. This is absolute sort of heart in mouth stuff. Through Copse, as we go through, you can see him fighting at the steering wheel, and he's again lots of back end action and brilliant stuff from our onboard footage.
Just under 6 minutes remain of this second Hammerite Racing Thunder Championship race of the weekend at Silverstone. Darren Bly there, third. He has delivered some great onboard action from us, and again he has to be oh so careful as to where he floors the throttle coming out of Beckett's onto Wellington Straight. There, second is Andy Robinson, and Charlie Butler-Henderson is getting very concerned about a very oily Brooklands.
Yes, there is a large slick of oil all the way from the braking point of Brooklands, and we can just see it when we go through it for the next lap to have a look at it, and you'll be able to see it at home. It's sort of a purpley greeny, there you go, and the slippery warning flag has come out as well to show that there is a slippery surface. So the only place I can see it at the moment is on the way into Brooklands, but you never know. From our camera angles it could be anywhere else, but at the moment it's just at Brooklands, so we need to keep an eye out for that. Those of you watching at home, it's a coloured area of tarmac on the circuit.
Just to prove how good four-wheel drive is, Vaughan Fletcher there lapped Kevin Wendt, who was a row ahead of him on the grid and has had 2 spins, and the Subaru is at least 5 seconds a lap quicker than the car that's chasing him. Andy Robinson's Ford Falcon running in second spot. Darren Bly is still third as the cars work their way down towards Brooklands. We've got 4.5 more minutes of the race to go. Another good varied grid as well in this Racing Thunder Championship. There is Vaughan Fletcher, keeps away from the oil, but of course he'll have discovered now where it is lap after lap. He's coming up to lap the similar Subaru of Ian Froggatt that had its spin at the end of lap 1. It may only be 15 minutes, there may only be 11 cars on track, but Vaughan Fletcher and everybody else indeed has worked so hard to keep the car in a straight line.
Yes, and he's just got into a nice little rhythm now, isn't he? He's had the advantage of that downpour of rain that we've just had. Looks like it's cleared up now a little bit, but still obviously on the circuit, and he's just got into a nice little rhythm. There's the slippery warning flags that are positioned up and down the pit lane on the right hand side that you can see on your left. So looking from a driver, you know, as the circuit goes as well, that's sort of where those flags are. The reason why there's a second marshal further down the pit lane, it's very easy to miss the first one because you're concentrating to drive away from the corner, away from the pit wall, and then you miss sometimes that first marshal's post.
Andy Robinson's Ford Falcon through second. He's being caught by the Nissan Skyline, so the gap has come down to 4.8 seconds. There is Darren Bly in the Nissan, twitching his way out of Copse. If you go on YouTube and look for Glenn Seaton at Bathurst 1987 when the Hurricane came, the one World Touring Car Championship year that ran at Bathurst, Glenn Seaton on slicks in a Nissan Skyline across the top of the mountain. It is awesome vision, and this ain't far off.
We braked a bit late there as well. He nearly went in the gravel. He braked very late and missed his gear change, so that would have made the car gain more momentum on the way into the corner.
It's all the arm twirling that goes on, which is the fascination. You can look out the front, or you can just watch Darren Bligh's hands on the wheel, on the gears. He wants to go as fast as he can, but he's mindful that here he's got to be so careful under braking, doing it with the gears as well as with his foot as he slows the car down. Carefully through Brooklands, trying to avoid the wet curb if he can, but also shorten the lap as much as he can. So he really is having to think about this.
And avoid the oil. And avoid the oil as well. So we've got the Falcon in front of us there, and he's just have a listen up here as we go through past the pits. Smooth on the throttle. Oh, just as I said, smooth on the throttle. So yeah, and it's also going past the grid as well. You've got the painted lines of the start-finish line. Paint, as I've mentioned before in the show, unless you've just joined us, the red and white painted curbs are extremely slippery. They are literally like slipping over outside your front door on ice while collecting your milk or something. So it's just lethal, absolutely lethal. And with a rear-wheel drive car of this much power, it's a real absolute struggle as we go through Maggotts and Beckett's.
And the gap for second is coming down, isn't it? 2.3. It had come down 2 minutes remain, but we could yet get this battle raging onto the flag for second position. Andy Robinson's Ford Falcon is ahead of the Nissan Skyline of Darren Bligh. Second position is the fight. 1 minute and 40 seconds on the clock. Is the Ford Falcon going to hang on in there as they come then now up towards the long right of Luffield? Darren Bligh goes for the inside line. Now, can he squirt it up the inside coming out of Luffield? Again, he's got to correct the car as he puts his foot down on the back, tries to overtake the front. He's hard at work here. He knows that place is within reach, but he's got to be so careful as again he gets it all sideways coming out of Woodcote. I don't think he's taken a breath for the last 14 minutes because this is real heart-in-mouth stuff.
Or blinked or anything. Or absolutely anything. So he's definitely caught him hand over fist, but now he's caught him. He can see the carrot that's dangling in front of him, and he's now going to keep putting the power on even more and more and more, which is then going to create more oversteer, make it harder to drive, and make it more likely that he could spin. And he's pushed him, he's forced him into a mistake. No contact made whatsoever, but second place is an easy gift to our onboard Skyline of Bligh. Fair play, brilliant, but what a shame.
Andy Robinson in the gravel, he revs it, it sinks down on its axles, that's it. And pity the poor marshals now that have to try and push a big, heavy Australian V8 supercar out of the gravel bed. I did say early on in the day that wet gravel often compacts. It's not done enough of that for Andy Robinson. Darren Bligh, I think you're becoming my hero because the way that he's driven that car, two-wheel drive, remember, it is very impressive indeed. He's up to second. Right, there is the race leader. So through has gone Vaughan Fletcher. He's going to squeeze one more lap out of this. And we wait to see in a moment Darren Bligh, the new second place man, come through. He's a long way back.
Slithering our way up and down the pit lane.
A twitch.
Yeah.
And he comes up. The slippery surface flag is a polite reminder to the drivers, but it's a bit superfluous because they don't half know how treacherous it is out there.
I think they know that, yeah, but it's just an extra help for them, yes.
And what else? Oh, Vaughan Fletcher, the leader on the last lap, goes off at Beckett's.
Was he having a chat with the Holden?
Well, he's 24, nearly 25 seconds ahead of Captain Bligh, but by the time he gets back onto the road, the gap will have come down a bit, but not enough to give Darren Bligh a lifeline. But Vaughan Fletcher, when he least needed it, on the last lap has a mistake. He goes off the road, regroups very quickly, fair play for that. But he was lucky to escape that.
But it shows that he's trying, but also at the same time, is he taking the mickey out of the others to say, well, I might just go off and have a little stop for a second, because he was a commanding lead, absolutely brilliant.
And my four-wheel drive will drag me out of any trouble, he says as well. Up to the checkered flag then. A very lively, very entertaining Hammerite Racing Thunder Championship is going to be won this second race of the weekend by Vaughan Fletcher, who comes across the timing line now to take the checkered flag to win. And Darren Bligh should be second. One last ride with him. He has been an absolute star in this, and he deserves that second place because he's driven so well.
First time rear-wheel drive as well. Fair play. I think we should all be giving him a little round of applause for that. That was a very 100% full effort drive. Brilliant.
I think he might have gone a bit greyer over the last 15 minutes, but that was very hard work for Darren Bligh. A great second place. We haven't touched on the fact that up to third is Ilsa Cox. There she is in the Seat. She's flown under the radar rather in this and has benefited a bit from others' dramas, but the lady from Hove, stalwart racer, Ilsa, been around in saloon car categories for years and years. comes across the timing line. Her and Brian, her husband, have in recent years based themselves at Castle Combe, but have been national racers for a long, long time. Fourth behind Ilse Cox, Gavin Thompson there in the Peugeot. Fifth goes to Bradley Gelman with the Sierra Cosworth. And sixth is Alex Sidwell. For Holden fans, the Commodore may not have been as quick as the Falcon, but it got to the end, the Falcon in the gravel. So the Commodore, you could argue, comes out on top when it matters. Now let's have a look. That was Vaughan Fletcher's last lap up at Beckett's. A big spin. He managed to avoid the parked car of Andy Robinson, but he was stationary, had to hook a gear and get going again. Lost a big chunk of his lead. Still had 15 seconds in hand at the end, but he's got some explaining to do, and I think when he gets back to the pit lane. Yeah,
that was a big few, wasn't it? A few, and he was lucky to stay out the gravel as well.
Yeah. So Vaughan Fletcher can celebrate race honours. Darren Bly took second in the end.
And celebrate staying on.
That's right.
In that beast.
And this was how Darren Bly got second. It was just that sort of lazy slide out of Maggots, and the back just came round too far.
What's tricky is when you come into the slight left-hand kink, which is the Maggots start to Beckett's, it's very difficult because you're braking and going straight at the same time. Here we go, on board. So the back end just stepped out, and here we go. We take the second place, but I think we were on for a little bit of a battle there, so I was disappointed with that, and so would the driver be as well that went off.
So the Scooby Clinic Racing backed Impreza of Vaughan Fletcher comes out on top. Vaughan Fletcher wins in the end by 15 seconds from Darren Bly. Ilse Cox bags third. Gavin Thompson is fourth ahead of Bradley Gelman. And Alex Sidwell with the Holden Commodore rounds out the top six in this, our second Hammerite Racing Thunder Championship race of the weekend. We'll hear from the race winner Vaughan Fletcher here at Silverstone when we're back right after the break.
Welcome back to Silverstone for Motors TV Race Day Live, and you've joined us just in time for the presentation. Here we go. Tony is obviously rewarding Vaughan Fletcher for that incredible win. Terrific in the Classic Thunder Championship. Vaughan, I think we need a quick word. First and foremost, I've got to ask you about what you were doing to yourself in the final lap there. 25-second lead, and then you decided to just take it off for a spin.
I decided, I'd make it interesting and throw it off on last lap, but I managed to keep out gravel, so I noticed it was tricky there with the oil. I mean, with the wet and then added to oil, there were oil all over the circuit and you were taking different lines, and I thought I'd got it covered on that corner down there, and then all of a sudden, just wrong line, touched the oil, away we went. And I thought, no, not the gravel, but we managed to stop on the edge and get away.
Last lap aside,
yeah,
you must have loved the race.
Loved it. It was fun. And the oil on top of it, trying to avoid the oil, made it tricky but fun. Yeah.
What made you so much quicker than everyone else? I mean, 25 seconds you were leading. That's an astonishing lead.
Yeah, I mean, start off with, I led, and then it was drying out a little bit, and Andy got past me, and then we did have a heavy shower, and what with the oil, I thought, yeah, I've got it now. And I just clawed him back, and once I'd got past him, I'd gone.
So moving forward, you want conditions like this every race?
Want conditions like this with oil every race.
We'll see what we can do. Well done, congratulations.
Thank you.
I think we should see some highlights. Let's rejoin David Addison.
The highlights are going to be the entire race, I suspect, because so much happened in 15 minutes of the Hammerite Racing Thunder Championship. It began on a wet road, it just got wetter. Early battle, Gavin Thompson taking on Daniel Clark. Peugeot versus Vauxhall Astra. Around the outside, finding some more grip. The Vauxhall gained a place, although ultimately would have a spin. The lead battle came down to Andy Robinson in the Ford Falcon versus Vaughan Fletcher in the Subaru. And as the rain got heavier and the track got wetter, so the Subaru came back into its own. Darren Bly, meantime, with the rear-wheel drive only Nissan Skyline, was having a very busy race. So too Kevin Went, 2 spins in the BMW. Andy Robinson put the Falcon in the gravel, and on the last lap, race leader Vaughan Fletcher had a spin as well. This was how Andy Robinson got there. He did it all on his own under pressure from Darren Bly. Darren's view of the back overtaking the front of the Ford Falcon. He picked up second position, and so despite his own dramas, Vaughan Fletcher came through as a winner.